I'm so glad to see all of you. You ready for another teaching on the elephant in the room? Did you see our awkward elephant when you walked in? Good. He's slowly dying. Need to start patching this poor guy. Yeah. The elephant in the room. We've been talking about prayer and submission. We talked about simplicity, all these awkward things that we just don't know what to do with. We talked about the fact that so many of us, we know a lot about God, but so many of us, we don't really know Him. We're not in an actual saving relationship with Him, and it's gotten awkward. We'll talk about Him. Just like talking about a lover that you actually aren't in a relationship with, you just heard a lot about. It's gotten weird. And so today we're going to talk about a subject that I struggle with. Are you ready? How many of you felt a little awkward? Raise your hand. Silence is terrifying. For people like me who just drown ourselves in noise, silence is weird. It's one of these things in our culture that we just don't get much of. One of my favorite quotes is from T.S. Eliot. He says, "Well, where shall the world be found? Where will the word resound? Not here. There's not enough silence." Think about that. In your own lives, do you take time for silence? Because in our world right now, it's just filled with chaos. There's so much noise going on. And we have to try to fill it. We always try to fill it. Eliot says, to hear God's voice in our culture is a difficult thing. To let His word resound, to penetrate our heart, we have to get out of the noise. We will do just about anything to cause noise in our lives so we don't have to deal with silence. Here's what I'm learning about silence. Silence is scary for most of us because silence is when all of a sudden all those issues that you've been trying to keep down, you've been putting them under the rug, silence all of a sudden causes you to have to deal with them. You pull the rug up, and there it all is. The stuff you've been trying to hide under the surface. Is this uncomfortable for anyone but me? A little bit. In the silence, we have time to think about that relationship that needs restoring. This is not a popular conversation, by the way, in churches. I talked to a couple friends about it. I said, I'm going to talk about silence. They said, what? You know people don't like that, right? This is your second time up in the new place. You're going to talk about silence? I think so. Looked at me like I was crazy. Silence is uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. In 1 Kings, let me take it there. Elijah, he's pretty sure he's the only prophet left. He's dealing with all of this pain, persecution, and he's saying, Lord, where are you? I'm in so much pain. I'm so frustrated. Where's your voice? Where does your voice resound? And he goes up on this mountain, and he says, Lord, where are you? Where are you? And what happens? We're told he goes to the fridge, right? Was God in the pickles? Was God in the casserole? Not so sure. It was a vegan dish. Was he in the Godiva chocolate? Some of you think so. We're told no. When he's up there on this mountaintop, we're told Elijah, he doesn't hear God in any of this stuff. We're told he hears God's voice, not in the wind, not in the fire, not in the earthquake, but in the stillness, in the silence. That's when Elijah hears God's voice, in the stillness. I want to ask you a question. I want you to think about it for a minute. When is the last time that you took time to just sit in silence and not fall asleep, but took silence and just said, okay, Lord, I want to hear your heart. and you listened. When's the last time you did it? For many of us, I would probably have to say most of us. This is really tough. We say, oh, I'm so busy, I can't afford to do that. Elliot, Elijah, Jesus, they would say, you can't afford not to do that. Let me give you more. Jesus says it's important that we take time in silence and solitude. I want to give you some application. You guys ready for it? Because again, it's very easy to talk about these things in a very abstract way. Let me give you some application. You ready? If you got your notes, take it out. Here we go. Number one, how many of you drive your cars and find that you have a lot of time by yourself in traffic? When I moved here from Washington, I was blown away. They said, yeah, the traffic's kind of rough. I was like, okay, what does that mean? To go 3 miles, it takes you 40 minutes. It's like, what is this? I don't know if I have enough gas. We have these tiny moments of silence and solitude. Take these tiny moments. Take advantage of these little solitudes that you get every day. Instead of cranking the music up in your car, distracting yourself with noise, try this just a couple times. On the commute to work, turn the radio off and say, Lord, I got some free time. I just want to listen and just talk with you a bit. Here's some things that have come to the surface. I don't know what to do about them. And listen. Listen to what he has to say. Talk with him. 45 minutes. Many of us say, I don't have time for devotions. Yeah, you do. Look for the tiny little solitude moments in your life. Number 2, develop a quiet space. My roommate in college, he was just one of the weirdest guys I've ever met. He took that idea of the prayer closet, which was actually, the prayer closet, what this was a prayer shawl, and you would cover your head. They called it the prayer closet. But my friend Matt, my roommate at the time, he took it seriously. So he took our one closet in the morning, and he would do his worship in there. And so we'd have to go up and say, Matt, can I have my coat? Not that one, the red one. Thanks. I had my own closet butler. But Matt understood it's so important to find a quiet place in your house. Somewhere where you can just, this is where I sit and this is where I kneel or whatever it is. It's my quiet space. Whatever it is. Maybe it's that moment from 6 to 7 when your kids are still asleep, and if that's you, you're so lucky. Maybe you don't have kids. You have some time. You have some space. Make that your lazy boy chair, space, quiet time area, whatever it is. No one touches my lazy boy. My lazy boy, that's mine. It's ordained. Whatever it is, find a quiet space for silence to listen to God. Number 3. This is the hardest thing in the world for me. Simplifying your speech. Let your yes be yes, your no be no. We talked about this when we talked about simplifying. How many of you tried simplifying your speech that week? I got quite a few emails from some of you. It's difficult. Because we want to justify ourselves sometimes, don't we? It's the hardest thing in the world to do, to lay down my need to show how right I am. Learning to just say, okay, I'll listen, simplifying what I'm saying, keeping it very simple. This way you'll find yourself having a lot more power in conversations. You'll have a lot more compassion, and people will have more compassion with you. Simplify your speech. Number 4, these are going to be tough ones now. I used to do this with my classes. I would tell them, you're going to go an entire day at school without saying a word. But Mr. Werfel, I have to talk. No, you don't. Well, some of you have jobs, and this is pretty problematic. Your boss comes to you and says, what about those TPS reports? Tell me about the... It might be a little harder for you. Maybe take a Sunday to do this. I don't know. But try to go one day without saying anything. You're going to notice some interesting things that come up to the surface. Some of the need to always talk, the need to always be right. You'll notice a lot of interesting stuff comes up when you don't use your words. Some of you are married. How often do you touch your spouse? How often do you reach out and just touch them? Because when you're no longer talking, touch is very important. You begin to focus on your expressions a little more. Take a day, just try it. Take a day where you don't talk. And number 3, I think this is so important. Get your calendar out. Get your calendar out and find one day. Number 5, look for one day that you can schedule a getaway just for you. 1 or 2 days, just get away. Spend silent, quiet time with God. Camping is great. Camping is a great opportunity to do it. After you get the mess of your tent up and you're ready to just throw it across the river or whatever you get, you relax and you sit and you just realize you're all by yourself and you have this silent, quiet time with God, and he begins to reveal things to you. It's beautiful. Jesus was constantly seeking solitude and silence with the Father. I want you to try this as a community of believers, because it's awkward, it's difficult, it's not the easiest thing in the world to do, to say, I'm going to take silence and just listen to God. I'm going to take time to hear his voice. When we begin to do this, we no longer ask questions to others. I don't know what God's will is. Yeah, you do now. You've been listening to it all along. I don't know what to do in this situation. Yeah, you do. He's revealed it to you. Listen. Take time in silence. You will find you'll not be worn out every single week when you get home on Friday. You'll actually have more energy. You're taking time to understand the God of the universe, to listen to his voice. He wants to talk to you. Take time in silence. Jesus did. Try it this week. There will be powerful things that happen in your lives when you do.